Hey Transformers fans, welcome back. Here I am taking a look at my freshly repainted Studio Series Voyager-class Megatron. Was super eager and anxious to get this guy repainted as soon as I picked him up. I didn't get him done quite as quickly as I wanted to. It took a long time. There's a lot of detail on him, a lot of nooks and crannies that had to be painted, obviously with all of the molded detail, but I'm very happy with the end results, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about what I did and to sort of show off some of the details of the figure that you can really see now that he's got the metallic shiny paint on him. So just doing a couple of close-ups of the figure itself. I mean the detail, like I mentioned this in my original video review when I first opened the figure, but the detail on this guy is just astonishing. How much detail they put into it. The molded sculpting and all that is just phenomenal. I mean, it's so so screen accurate. It's just crazy. And then once you get the metallic paint on it, it really makes it pop. The dull gray plastic that they molded him in, was not the worst plastic that they've ever used on a Transformer figure, but it certainly didn't do this figure justice. So I'm very happy to finally have him all painted up and metallic and shiny and looking mean. So really happy with the results, and just kind of showing some of the other details off. So I used a few different colors, but not too many. Obviously, I mean, he's mostly just metal. So I actually was pretty fortunate. I didn't have to repaint his eyes at all. The red that was on the figure out of the box was vibrant enough and bright enough and, looked great. So I didn't even have to touch those. So that's the stock red on his eyes. But everything else I did in a silver, a flat aluminum silver paint. And I'm actually going to show off, I don't normally do this. This is sort of the first time that I'm going to do this, but figured you might find it valuable. So this is the paint that I use. It's the Tamiya acrylic. And this is the XF16 flat aluminum. That's most of Megatron's features. Now I actually thin out the flat aluminum paint before I put it on. And I just use the standard, X20A acrylic thinner from Tamiya. And I don't thin it out a lot, but just enough so that I can actually apply, 2 or 3 coats to it. And it ends up being a much smoother, if I kind of zoom in on like one of his shoulders there, it ends up being a much smoother finish, and you don't see brush lines because the paint is thin. And it ends up looking very nice. Almost, I've got comments on when I posted some pictures of this guy to Instagram, people saying that it looks like an airbrush, and I'm like, well, I don't have an airbrush. I do it all by hand. I'd like to get one, but I don't have one yet. So I've kind of figured out some workarounds to make it look better, and thinning out the silver paint is definitely one of those tips. For sort of the bulk of the rest of Megatron, like on his treads and on the cannon, some of his arm joints and things like that, you'll notice that it's a little bit of a different metallic. It's darker, and it's this one here. And I've used this a lot as well. I've talked about it in other videos, but it's just called Metallic Gray, XF56. And it's a flat metallic gray, but it's just a darker tone, and it works really good as an accent on a lot of different Transformers figures that I've done, because it has a really cool dark, almost like a gunmetal tint to it, but it's flat finish instead of glossy, so it works really well. Other than that, the only other color that I used on him was this, and his original accents, like sort of in his body and down here on the pistons and on his legs and in the treads, was kind of like a goldy, like a dull goldy metallic finish, and I wanted it to pop a little bit more, so I used copper, flat copper, is XF6 from Tamiya again, which is, again, it's a matte finish, and it's got a really nice, vibrant metallic hue to it, and it looks really nice. So I figured that was kind of cool. I mean, I know it's probably a little darker, a little brighter maybe, in terms of like the tone than maybe was in the CGI model, but I just really like it. I think it adds, a little bit more to the figure in terms of just how it looks. So that's what I did to mine. And then also, you might notice this. There's a little Decepticon logo on him now, which there was not before, and that's just a teeny tiny little Repro Labels Decepticon symbol that I had kicking around, and I figured, why not put one on him? It was a good spot there. It was just big enough, or just small enough, I should say, to fit in that spot, and it works really well. you know, it doesn't look, you know, like it's totally out of place. So yeah, that's kind of the overview on the colors and everything that I did. And then finally, I did clear coat him because I wanted the paint to be protected, because unfortunately with the metallic, the thinner paint layers and the fact that it's a flat finish, it does tend to scuff if you're not careful when you're like handling it and transforming it and whatnot. So I put on a couple of layers of this spray lacquer dull coat. You'll see it's dull coat there, not a shiny clear coat, and it works really good at you know, giving the figure an all over nice clean finish that's not glossy or shiny. Now the thing about this is, because it's a lacquer and not an acrylic paint like the other stuff, you have to be careful not to use too much at one time, because what will happen is the lacquer will actually dissolve some of the acrylic paint and cause it to cause the finish to distort a little bit, which in this particular case worked really, really well, because it actually kind of gives him a bit more of a dirty look, almost like he has a wash on him, like a dark wash, which I didn't do, but because of the clear that I put on him, it actually ended up having that look to him, you know, especially like in the face and around the chest area. He looks like he's got a wash, like to fill in the panel lines and things like that. So it looks really good. I'm actually happy with that sort of unanticipated or unintended result. So yeah. Obviously, you know, he still fully transforms. You know, nothing has changed there. I'm not going to transform him at this point, because, you know, I mean, you know what it looks like. Everything's just really shiny and metallic, just like, you know, his robot mode. And I don't want to run the risk of scuffing it up or scratching it up at this point. It's just too new for me to start messing around with stuff like that. But eventually I'll probably transform him and maybe post some pictures of him in his tank mode, now that he's all shiny. So yeah, I mean, other than that, I just did a bunch of little details. You know, there didn't used to be any copper in this section of the tread, so I added the copper. You know, this just used to be, you know, just dull gray, or yeah, just a sort of plain gray, so I did that. I added some dark gray accents into these little thrusters on his thighs, and then on his thrusters in his back, there's some dull gray in there. So like, there's just little accents that I added sort of all over that kind of give it a little bit more. Like this copper wasn't here before, this copper wasn't here before, so I added those to give his shoulders a little bit more depth and match the rest of his body. So yeah, that's kind of what I did for this guy. Now I want to show off a few sort of comparisons side by side. If you've been watching my Instagram feed, you've probably already seen them, but here we go. So there's my Voyager Studio Series Megatron next to my Voyager Studio Series Optimus. Or not, sorry, Studio Series, I don't have the Studio Series Optimus. I have the Revenge of the Fallen mold, which is actually, this is the Dark of the Moon one that they came out with, but I have customized this guy a lot. You know, there's a lot of silver paint apps and some, you know, blue. I tried to make this show accurate as possible, and I think the two of these guys look really, really nice together. The scale is good. The paint, now that I've got them both painted up, they look really nice. So those are the two Voyager-class movie leaders that I've got on my shelf. I think they look really good together. Taking a look at a couple of other ones, so I wanted to show these guys again because I did an original comparison in my first video. So there's Dark of the Moon Voyager Megatron, and Last Night Voyager Megatron, and that is a pretty sweet looking set of movie Megatrons that I really am happy to have on my shelf. I think they look all awesome together. Three great molds, and three really good looking decos. So, and just for giggles, let's put him next to Studio Series Starscream. And Starscream, I don't even think I'm going to do anything to him. I mean, he's got great paint apps on him. I don't think there's much that I'm going to do to him, if at all. So this guy's probably going to stay the way that he is. But certainly, you know, now that Megatron's all painted up, these two look really, really good together as well. And finally, because it reminded me an awful lot of when I painted up this figure, here he is next to Transformers Prime Voyager Megatron, which also had head-to-toe silver repaint in a very similar fashion to what I did for this guy. So it brought back a lot of memories of when I painted this guy a while ago. And the two of them, I mean, you can see like Megatron's shiny silver, all kinds of sharp angles and just looking mean. You know, they look really nice together too. So just wanted to show those two together. Yeah, so I appreciate everybody taking the time You know, I got some great comments on Instagram and on Twitter as I was repainting this guy. You know, lots of kudos, so I really appreciate that. Thanks so much for all the great comments. You know, it's been a long haul to get him to where he is, but I'm really happy with the results. You know, he looks sufficiently mean and angry and Megatron, so I am definitely happy with the results of this. The mold is great. If you don't have it, you should get it. But if you feel ambitious and you know, and want to paint them, you know, take your time. There's lots of nooks and crannies, like I said. You know, there's a lot of detail, and you know, you really want him to look great when he's done. So I hope this video has sort of inspired you to maybe pick up one of your own figures and add some paint to it, customize it the way that you want it to look. But yeah, so that's my look at my repaint of Voyager Studio Series Megatron. Hope you like it. You know, feel free to subscribe. Would love to hear from you in the comments. And yeah, check back for more videos soon. Thanks very much, and I appreciate you tuning in. Have a great day.